Awesome. You guys can do your approvals. I fixed it so that I can share my screen on my Mac. Yay.
Just getting tech savvy on us.
Finally. Well, it didn't take me. It really, University of Google, man, that and actually reading on my computer. I was like, oh, how do I do this? I am so not a Mac. I don't know if you guys, I love my Mac. I adore my Mac. I am not a Mac.
Ah, okay.
I am
have
PC.
I'm so machinated. I
Remember
can't
those
hardly use a
commercials?
Windows. I can't hardly use a Windows computer anymore.
Oh, no, I'm Windows. Do you remember those commercials from like a million years ago? Are you a Mac or a PC? I am so PC. I am stodgy nerd. I am not Justin Long. All right, let me really quickly, I will add, I should, yes. All right. I think I shared my presentation in the chat, so you guys can keep it, pull it, so you'll have it, because the links,
Nice.
there are some links in there if you want it. But do you guys see it? Are we
Yep.
up?
Yep.
All right. Let me make my screen a little bit. I'm not going to put it in presentation mode. I'm just going to kind of run it through here. All right. So acceptance and commitment therapy. That's what we're talking about today. I am doing my master's capstone project on implementing ACT in my middle school setting. With my students are with ED or EBD. And I am running acceptance, or getting ready to run acceptance and commitment therapy programming with my guys. So objectives today are to learn some specific facts about ACT. There actually is, I think, in the Cooper book now, there's a whole chapter on relational frame theory, which I'm going to be fully honest with you, my professors had no idea how to teach it. I don't think it was actually really discussed in my coursework at all, because it's still pretty darn new. But I learned all of this through my work. I happened to have the good fortune to work for a company that Mark Dixon runs, because he lives down the street from me in Naperville. Weird. I had no idea. And that's how I learned everything I've learned about relational frame theory. So our objectives today: to learn some specific facts about ACT and to practice as a client would a program, a lesson, an ACT lesson. So what is ACT? ACT is based in relational frame theory. It focuses on the behavior of internal events. As radical behaviorists, as we all are, we understand that internal events are behavior. And so, but it feels weird, like how do we access those internal events? And it's not necessarily something that we talk about a whole bunch when we're dealing with at least I didn't, when I was dealing with my kids with profound autism, or because it would get to, what was the word that my BCBA would get to? She would be like, oh, you're guessing or whatever. But internal events are absolutely behavior. And so ACT is about teaching students to build the skills that they need to become successful by focusing on doing things, their behavior, and ultimately making choices. In my mind, the way I understand ACT is it's really all about how to teach kids agency. My daughter made a comment when I showed her the AIM book, which I actually have linked in my references. She kind of was browsing through it. And she goes, oh, this is like all the stuff that you learn about in life, but nobody teaches you. You just kind of figure it out for yourself. And I was like, yeah, except this is actually a curriculum that teaches kids who don't know how to learn these things, how to do these things. So there are acceptance and commitment therapy it was actually started by a guy named Stephen Hayes. But so there are 6 pieces called the Hexaflex. I'm not going to go too in depth on them, but I'm going to talk about what they are. If there's time, we can talk a little bit more about them. There's present moment, acceptance, values, committed action, self as context, and diffusion. These are all the behaviors that you need to work on in order to have more agency and to start to understand and be able to use your internal events as behavior. Hope I'm saying that right. So I want you to think about how this might relate to your clients. I'm going to talk about it from my students and how I work on it with my students. And you can kind of think about it in your way. So for my students, so I teach in a self-contained classroom for kids with ED. I have a couple of students with ASD, but they're in my classroom not because academically my guys are pretty close to or on grade level. It's all about their behaviors. That's why they're in my classroom. So they're all highly reactive with their behaviors. They struggle with response inhibition, resilience, staying on task, time management, the whole gamut of executive functions, the plethora of executive functions. And so one part of the Hexaflex that I work on, and it's the one that when I've done this with other clients in the past, it's actually the first one I work on, is practicing acceptance. So today we are going to do a little exercise practicing on acceptance. So this is lesson 14. And I am going to open up, I think I already have this open, but what I will do, so you'll have this link. I can actually send you a whole bunch of this if you're really into this. We're not going to do the first part. Every lesson, so this is from the book, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy for Children with Autism or Emotional Behavior Problems or Emotional Disturbance. There are 180 days in this program, and we're focusing on day 14. Each day has one page, a front and a back. We're not going to do the front part, but I'll show it to you. You guys can see this, right? Okay, so it's called, the whole lesson is called Being Willingly Out of Breath. And in the corner, you see how you have that little hexaflex on the upper right-hand corner. And so every time you have a lesson, it shows you what part of the hexaflex you're working on. And some of these lessons work on multiple parts of the hexaflex at the same time. This one is only working on acceptance. So the first, I'm just going to breeze through this. The first thing you do, and if I'll scroll down so you can see, it is for grade school. It is this program was written to be done with school children in a school setting even. You've got grades K through 4, intermediate grades in your middle and high school, your secondary grades. So you hold your breath for however long you can hold your breath for. And it's designed so you could do this in a classroom setting. It's not designed, I use this on one-on-one therapy, but you can do this in a whole classroom, which is what makes it really kind of special. And then you try it again, see if you can hold it for, I don't even know if we say, yeah, try to hold it longer. And the lesson is, see if you can let that feeling, where do you feel the urge to breathe? See if you can let that feeling be there and yet keep holding your breath. Notice any thoughts, thank your mind for them without being controlled by them. Even the sneaky thoughts, your brain always tries to lie to you. That's one of the things we talk about in acceptance and commitment therapy. Your brain tells you stuff that's not true. Notice other emotions other than the urge to breathe and make room for them. Stay in the moment. Acceptance and present moment, although acceptance is its own thing, I think of acceptance and present moment as very much working together. And in fact, as you study this, the more you study it, they all kind of link together. And stay with the commitment to hold your breath as long as you can. Imagine you are creating that urge on purpose. So these are the things that we would work through with our students as we're doing this part of the exercise. Then we're going to do the second part of today's exercise. So let's try this technique with some ice water. So I want you to stick your hand in the water. Wait 1 second. What I did, I got to move my little sidebar. Hold a second. So what I did is I am going to start my timer. When you guys are ready, we're going to put our hand in the water. Have your mic off so you can tell me, when you're done. And here we go. You ready? Okay, put your hand in. We're going to put our hand in the water. And again, this is about the process. Don't make yourself miserable. Do it as long as you can. Notice what you're feeling. Notice what your brain is telling you. Find your breath, find your present moment. That's a big one. Feel what it feels like to have your hand in the water.
can't hold my arm up.
I think it's going to be numb soon.
You can always take it out because we're going to do it again.
I gotta
Get your towel ready so you don't get any water on your computer. All right.
I'll call it
So
good.
we got 110. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So how did that feel?
Not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
It hurt my elbow a lot more than my hand. I gotta find a better position. Like I couldn't hold my elbow up.
Try standing.
Yeah,
What
I'm gonna have to.
strategies? Did you use any strategies? Did you tell yourself anything in order to keep your hand in there longer?
Nope.
Nope. You just did it.
I was cursing in my head.
Oh, Katie.
Well,
I
I
did.
watched a thing where they timed how long you could keep your hand in a bowl of ice water. And people could either curse or not curse. And they were able to keep their hand in longer when they could curse.
So you have some previously learned history.
But it didn't work because there was, I could, but I'm gonna apply this. I'm gonna apply this next time.
I know. All right. So here's what we're going to do. The thing we're going to do different this time. I've got my timer out. So I don't know if you guys, can you still see my screen?
Yep. Day 14.
So we are going to try this again now, but first we're going to take about a minute and we're going to say it is going to be very cold. And we're going to say that over and over again out loud in your head. However, I'm going to start the timer right now. And we're going to say this for a minute before we stick our hands into the water. You ready?
Yep.
It's going to be very cold. It's going to be very cold. It is
It's going to
going
be very cold.
Be
It's going to be
very
very cold. It's going to be very cold. It's going to be very cold. It's going to be
My
very
elbow is going to hurt because I'm
My
going to
elbow is going to hurt.
very cold. It's going to
It
be
is
very
It's going to
cold.
be very
It's going to
cold.
be very cold.
It's gonna be cold.
Very
My
cold.
elbow might
Very
hurt.
cold.
going to be very
Super
cold.
cold.
It's going to be very cold. It's going to be
Halfway
very
Hard to
there.
hold my hand up.
very cold.
It's gonna be really
It's
cold.
going to be very cold.
It's gonna be
It's gonna be
super
very-
cold.
Going to be very
It's gonna be really,
It's going to be
really
very
cold.
really,
very
really.
cold.
Very cold.
It's going to be very cold.
It's gonna be really
It's going
cold.
to be very cold.
It's going to be very cold.
Cold.
It's
It's going to be very
cold.
cold.
last
Elbow
15
will
seconds.
hurt.
Cold.
It
It's
is
going to
be
be very cold. It's going to be very
It's going
cold.
to be very cold.
Very
It's going
cold.
to be very
It's going to
cold.
be very cold. It's going to be
And
very
my elbow's
cold.
gonna hurt.
It's going to be very cold. It's going to be very cold.
And it's gonna be
It's going to
cold.
be very cold.
It's going to be
It's
very
gonna be
cold.
cold.
All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to put my timer. Let me turn my timer off. I'm going to put my 5-minute timer back in. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and put our
Go.
It's gonna be
in.
cold.
Plunge.
And just notice what you notice. Find present moment. That's their big thing. Finding present moment.
This would be interesting to do when we could not see the timer.
Well, and I think I did that for us. I don't know, because I'm actually wondering, because I have not done this with my guys yet. And I'm actually very curious.
Because I'm just going to try and beat my time, no matter what it feels like.
Well, but it's also notice. I mean, also the whole point of this is notice. Like, is it a little easier? Does it feel a little easier?
I'm finding it to be harder. I don't know if I have my hand more in the water.
Maybe.
I
Or
felt
you
like
just hate it.
even before, like when I was saying it's gonna be cold, I felt my hand is getting cold, even though my hand was not in the water
That's
yet.
funny.
Yeah.
You'd say it's okay that it's cold. It's okay. It's okay that it's cold.
Oh, it's
I'm out.
okay.
I'm
That is the beauty of acceptance commitment therapy. We are technically longer, but that's okay. You do not have to make it longer. Is there any difference this time? Obviously, it was a little colder this time for Katie. She was definitely feeling it. What about you, Kanai?
I wasn't, well, I felt cold, but because I was just enjoying the differences. So it was fun. Like the first try, I was thinking, okay, like I was thinking of sauna. You know, we go to the hot place and then go to the water, the cold
Yeah.
water. That is healthy. That's I heard that it's healthy. So I was trying to think, this is how like healthy, making me healthy, like my, stimulating my
vagal
blood
nerve.
vessel things. Yeah,
That vagal
But
nerve tuning.
yeah, to be patient. But this time I was just enjoying, why it's cold.
What about you,
I was
Jenny?
just-
Is everybody out? Shall I stop the timer?
Yeah, no, I'm out. Sorry, I got a text.
Oh, no worries.
I was just thinking about the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
And that's
I mean, I
okay.
went longer, and when she texted me, my attention went over there, and I kept my hand in until I needed my hand to reply. So kind of having that distraction, not thinking about it,
Was probably
really
super helpful.
acceptance.
That's a good strategy. I mean, the strategy. So the other thing, so you actually use the strategy of kind of distraction maybe this time around.
Yeah, not really acceptance.
It's not really acceptance, but it is. I mean, that's
I
the
kept it
beauty.
in longer.
The beauty of acceptance is that it is with the terminology that we definitely use is practicing acceptance. Was everybody able? Well, Katie, were you able to keep it longer this time or no?
I did not pay attention to my time either.
I think
of
you were
the
super close. I do think you were.
times.
Super
I
close.
think it was close.
Okay,
yeah.
Kanai, were you able to keep it in longer this second time?
Yeah, I didn't take a multiple time, but I felt like it's more difficult to,
You thought it was more difficult the second time.
yeah.
Interesting. And that could be, I mean, who knows? Because, we have really good executive functioning skills, hopefully. So we're able to, maybe we probably would have gone a little longer than a kid who's doing
Yeah.
this for the very first time.
I think,
and-
yeah, it's because I felt more cold.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me push back to, so that would be one lesson of doing a lesson on acceptance and what acceptance feels like. How do you push through something that doesn't feel really nice, something that doesn't feel comfortable? And one of the specifically the strategy that we used is repeating it and repeating something that, it's going to be very cold, so that we knew it ahead of time. That could have backfired for some of us. It could have made it even worse. Like, oh my gosh, like anticipatory, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so
really
bad.
cold.
And that kind of comes to my next point, which is, let's talk a little bit, because how much time do I have, Jenny? A little bit of time? I think I got a little bit of time. We go 5 minutes. I'm going to talk about what these are. Have you guys ever heard of, except any of these pieces on the Hexaflex? Anybody heard anything? A little bit? Kanai, have you heard a little bit? All right.
No.
What we get, so this is the Hexaflex. These are the essential components of acceptance and commitment therapy. As you can see, the lines, they connect to each other, but they also connect to every single piece because they all really work in unison. And as I talk through them, they're going to sound super familiar if you've ever studied Buddhism. It's just the religion piece. In my mind, one of my BCBAs, my former BCBAs, is a Buddhist, and she's like, yeah, I just got really mad when I realized it was my religion, and all of the religious part was sucked out for a Judeo-Christian, and but she's like, it's good, but I was like, it's really great stuff, and it is really great stuff. Anyway, so we talked about acceptance. That other piece that I usually work with for the very first time, contacting the present moment, which is just being present in your body, and try to what you would do in meditation, if you've ever taken any classes in meditation, where you just find your breath and just try to be in the present. Don't think about the future. Don't think about the past. Be where you are. There's a grounding exercise, which some of you may already know. Find 5 things that you see, 4 things you hear, or 4 things you touch, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you can taste. I think that's it, or something like that. That is very much, what are you doing when you're doing all those things? You are literally finding your present moment. You cannot focus on the future or the past if you are doing those things. Values. Think of values as our reinforcement. What are our reinforcers? What motivates us? So this is one where you really, I will say this about acceptance and commitment therapy, you really have to have kids that are verbal. They don't necessarily have to be super conversational, I don't think, to do most, if not all of these exercises, but they do have to be able to understand symbolic language. They do have to be able to, because your values is somewhat deeply symbolic, but it's very personal. And one of the things that I've had trouble when I work with kids is they try to pick their parents' values. And so you have to teach them, no, I don't want your parents' values or your sister's values or the values you think you're supposed to have. I need you to find your values. What's important to you? Having your friends, being with your family, playing video games, and having time to play your favorite video game and enjoy that time, which I wouldn't call it necessarily playing video games, but I would say time to do the things that you want to, you enjoy, your free time or your game time. That's really important. So your values, are you getting closer to your values? And the way you get closer to your values is the one underneath it, which is committed actions. Committed actions are the steps that we take that bring us closer to our values. And when you are talking with your clients or your students, you are talking in ways where you're using language like, well, is this action bringing you closer or farther away to your value of what your values are right now? Self as context, this is the real you, the true you, the whole you, not the you that maybe you are in one place versus the you in another place. It's the real you. Self as context. And also not the you that you think you are, but the you that you are. This is probably the toughest one for a lot of kids to understand. I'll be honest with you, I struggle with it from time to time myself. Diffusion, this is the idea that you are not your thoughts. And this is a really fun one. We used some of that a lot of times with diffusion. The skills that we work on with our clients or our students, if they're having a hard time practicing acceptance and letting go of a thought, we might say that thought with a silly word, or say it in a silly accent, or say it 5 times really fast, or say it in a funny way in order to try and figure out a way to let us go. The idea behind diffusion is you are not your thoughts and your brain lies to you. And then acceptance, just practicing acceptance every day. Practicing acceptance is not just it's not just giving up. It's being okay. If one of the examples that one of my BCBAs told me, if we found out that there was a giant meteor coming to Earth and we were all going to die in 24 hours, obviously we would have some difficulty practicing acceptance, but there's nothing we can do about it. We can't change it. So what would we want our last 24 hours to be if we knew that? And what, practicing acceptance means, how do we deal with that? A lot of times I'll teach it with my students as being okay with both the good and the bad, because that's a way that I think a young brain can grasp it. But a lot of times it's learning to a lot of times I think of the Alcoholics Creed, practicing knowing the things that you can change and the things that you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And that is a brief lesson on acceptance and commitment therapy. There are my resources and links. I can send it to you. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful, and we are done. How did I do? 30 minutes?
20. Yeah, we got started late trying to gather our water and whatever. That's okay. We'll get done when we get done, and we'll stop when it's time to stop. I thought that was fantastic. So let's jump into our CARES forms, ladies. All right. So Katie, can you congratulate Gemma on something that she did well in her presentation?
Yeah, I think, well, I enjoyed the whole thing. So all in all, it was really great. It's also something that I've heard about a little bit, but I have never had that much information about it. And so it was really nice to get kind of a brief overview. And I like how you listed your objectives in the beginning and told us kind of what we were going to be learning and a little bit about what we were going to do. And of course, the activity, the hands-on activity, that always makes it a lot more engaging. So
nice. Is there something that you want to ask clarification on?
Oh, the PDF files that like the day 14 things. That was a great that like had a like fourth graders or high school graders. And my question is that like is that like it doesn't have to be like special needs kids like or like any population we can use that strategy.
I think you could use, I'll be honest with you. I mean, the book that I pulled this from is called Act for Kids with ASD or Emotional Disturbance or Emotional Difficulties. But I mean, you can really do it with anyone. And there's another one. If you look in my resources section, I also include Accept, Identify, Move, which is the ACT curriculum that Dixon and Palalunas, which is one of his grad students who is now also a BCBAD who works for the company, they wrote that together. And that, again, very similar. It has 180 lessons. No, it's not it was on purpose. There's 180 school days. And very similarly, they wanted us to be able to do it with students in a regular ed setting, because they fervently believe that these are lessons that we can all learn from, not just kids on the spectrum.
Nice. Katie, is there anything you would like a follow-up on if she were to do a part 2?
Yes, probably a lot, actually. Honestly, I'm thinking every part of that, I forget what you called it, but Hexaflex. Probably every part of the Hexaflex you could do a separate training on, and then probably a whole nother training on other activities, that you could do that address that are in that book that address the different areas. So that would be cool it's definitely something that I would love more trainings on.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
There's a whole training you could do. There's
okay.
lots of trainings. Sorry.
That's okay. Kanae, did she meet her learning objectives?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, she slipped.
Oh, she slipped. Okay.
Yes.
Katie, you want to close this out with a summary?
Yeah. So we talked about acceptance and commitment, the therapy. Was it training? Therapy?
Acceptance and commitment therapy. ACT.
Therapy.
Yeah, I'll just throw in an aside. Some behavior analysts who are not certified therapists call it training because they don't want to be accused of doing therapy.
Okay, it's good to know that
he works both ways for that, right?
Okay. So we talked about ACT and got a brief overview of the Hexaflex and what ACT is and how ACT can be used with individual clients and also with a whole class. And we also got to do a hands-on lesson that we could also do again with individuals or in a whole class.
Nice. Jem, I think that was fantastic. And truly doing that activity was really cool.
Yeah. That was all you, woman. You're the one who came up with the idea.
Well, thank you very much. You did it. It was your book. I don't have that book. All right, you guys, let's keep moving. All right, let's talk about parent interview forms. I'm going to stop sharing. If you guys, I want to give you guys the opportunity. You're going to have to do this fast.